This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Bud, and I am here with Mikey for as long as he will be here, given today's breakfast scene.
Yeah. Breakfast is fighting me.
Breakfast is fighting you. Mikey, bro, life
What's
good?
up?
How's everything going?
Good, man. Good. Just gearing up to head out to San Diego in 2 days.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get out in sunny California. You know, I've never been to California.
No, you haven't.
I have not. No. So this will be my first time.
We got to play because we're on the same flight out. We got to play go. No, that would be going to Miami. There's got to be a good Cali song that we can play.
Diggy Smalls, man. I'm going back.
There we go. All right, good. See,
hopefully it doesn't fall into the ocean while we're there. That's my biggest fear.
So, time crunch today. You got a hard stop. I got a hard stop. What we wanted to talk about is we're going to go into middle management, right, Mikey?
Yeah.
And kind of structuring out middle management would be team leads, key account managers, kind of those people that sit in that layer between leadership. That's why we're called middle management, between leadership and between the field sales reps. But before we do that, Mikey, I think we do our mini segment, which is, kind of akin to Charlie Munger. You show me the incentive, I'll show you the result. And we were going to pick on this character. See this screen. Yes. Look at that character. How do you say his name?
Mondo Duplantis.
Mondo Duplantis. I mean, look at this character. He has broken the world record 10 times for pole vaulting. And he's done it. He's beaten his own world record 9 times. So that is crazy, right? But why would he do that? You show me the incentive, I'll show you the result. Why would he break his world record incrementally 10 times?
Because he just couldn't jump.
Because he just couldn't jump. I mean, is he just trying to test it ever so slightly, just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more?
No, he was playing the game, and he knew the game.
What's the game, though?
So these I guess these Olympians, right? When they break world records, they get sponsorship money. They get dollars. It's usually like around $100,000 for sponsorships and endorsements for breaking a world record. And in Mondo's case, it's pretty interesting what he did, because he knew where he needed to be to just break that world record. But he also knew he could go higher than that. So why go higher than that and get $100,000 once when he can go out and do it 9 times?
9 times.
9 times. So he just beat it, and then he come back again and just beat it again. And every time he's doing this, he's collecting around $100,000. So Mondo was very smart in the way that he handled, I guess, his incentive, right? Because that would be more or less an incentive for him to go out and break a world record and collect his cash. So instead of doing it one time and setting this high bar and just going out there and crushing it, he just slowly stair-stepped up to collect and benefit as much as he could.
He's to the tune of 900, almost $1 million.
Yeah.
Something tells me he's not done, that he's not done yet. And that we just got through the Olympics. He won the gold medal, and that he's going to keep going. There's something in me that just says he's not done yet.
So what does that have to do with middle management?
So it really has to do with this segment of, hey, we want to talk about weird things in the world, because we talk about, aligned incentives, and we want people to hack their pay plan, and we want to understand how to hack it. Like, we figured that out. Our kind of method in our, professional world is like, let's just align these incentives to the outcomes that you want. And then when they figure out how to hack it, it's in your benefit as a leader. So in the middle management world, how do we start to align middle management incentives into hacking the pay and hacking the outcomes for a beer distributor? So kind of a fun segue and a fun segment. We'll do more of those. If you're listening and you see any of these weird behaviors out in the world, whether it be with kids sports or whether it be with the medical industry. I've got one in my head already for a future segment in the medical industry. Like, send them our way. We want to talk about them and kind of break them down. This was a fun one to do just because it's like so blatant and so wild that it makes a ton of sense. So middle management side. So Mikey, you know, where we wanted to start is like let's define that middle management. So that would be in middle management world, I think that sits in team lead, area sales manager, director of a division or a team, could also be a key accounts manager, could also be a brand manager. And then there's kind of fringe people and we don't work with a lot of, but also in that middle management realm, which could be some inventory coordinators. Brand managers might fall into some of that camp because they do some inventory coordinating in maybe their brand vertical or their suppliers that they work with. And then even maybe some accounting department, because we kind of bleed into some accounting and financial side as well. So that's kind of the definition. For me, let's start with the role of middle management in kind of business strategy when it comes to a beer distributor. Like, what should the strategy side or execution side of that strategy from this team lead area sales manager role look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it relates. We can always relate it back to Mondo's approach, right? Where structuring slow, steady achievements instead of just one big jump, right? To achieve short-term results, but overall landing where we want to, our total achievement, right? Instead of going out and making one incentive or whatever objective to get 100% of where we want to get,
Mm-hmm.
and you're all in and have short-term results, when we can take that and stair step it just like Mondo did, right, to get to our company-wide goal at the end. um, what that's going to do is it's going to create short-term results, right? We've already talked about that. Where am I at and how am I doing? We talk about that all the time. And it's also going to inspire, that middle manager, team lead, whatever, to get the results because they're getting there instead of having this giant jump and not getting there and failing versus, all right, I got this one. I can get the next one, right? And all the meanwhile, basically stair stepping up to our total achievement where we really want it to be as a company, as a company wide goal.
Yep. And that rolling up, what that field sales rep is doing and how their performance is rolling up to the team, in the world of where middle management lives, like, shit rolls uphill, and it always rolls uphill when it comes to goals and when it comes to outcomes. Like, it starts at the base level, the field sales rep side, rolls up to middle management, and then rolls up to leadership. One of the quotes that I've heard recently from one of our clients is, I am excited about working with you in VXP because the way that I'm incentivized is one way and really on the profit. So you got a lot of leaders inside the beer industry right now that are already incentivized on profit or EBITDA or a net operating income or something like that from a bottom line profitability of the wholesaler. They're incentivized like that. But then the sales team is incentivized exclusively on a volume game.
Mm-hmm.
And that gap between the two, as we know really well, can be 3 to 7% if you're not focusing on it the right way at the sales team. What this individual leader said was, I'm excited because now the team, all the way down to the field sales reps, is in line and incentivized in very similar, almost exactly the same way I am. And that I'm going to get the results that I've always been preaching or looking for because their money is tied up the exact same way my money is tied up. And we're going to get the outcomes that we're both looking for collectively.
Yeah, and when you do that, especially with VXP, right, we're aligning middle management with our core values, autonomy and purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're giving them the decision power to go out and make the decisions that align with the overall company goals. Um, and I think the biggest takeaway there is the autonomy, right, and the purpose, right? So I spent the longest time in my career as middle manager, team leader, right, for ASM, I guess, for our distributor, and aligning my goals and aligning what I wanted or what I needed to do with the company goals, right, really, really helped me get the team inspired and enrolled. If I wasn't on board with the company goals and there was that breakdown, then I'm not going to trickle that down to my team. I'm not going to inspire them to go out and accomplish the same things that the company wants as far as an overall goal. And again, coming back to the autonomy and the purpose, right? To now I can be out with my team and we're making the decisions without having to ask somebody else or go and check on this or go get clearance for this, because I have a clear vision of where the company wants to go, what their goals are, and I know how to cascade that down.
Yeah.
And also being 100% on board, right? If I'm not 100% on board, I'm not going to get my team 100% on board too, to believe in those core values and align with our overall company goals and objectives.
So we talked a lot about so far around who those teams are and like area sales manager, team leads. Who else is in your world is in that middle management that you think makes sense to at least, and even if we're somebody not working with VXP that should be thinking about including some variable pay and some variable incentives to that other middle management folks. Anybody else that comes to mind in your world, Mikey?
Yeah, for sure. Operationally, right? I mean, people that are doing forecasting, um, the people that are doing forecasting have a huge overall say because they're supplying the product. SECs, anybody that's going out and creating these objectives or incentives, we all need to be on the same page. We all have to have the same vision as what the company does, because if there's any kind of a breakdown, um, or we're not aligned, we're just going to be fighting each other. If I'm a team leader and I'm going out and I'm trying to grow profitability or I'm trying to grow volume on a particular brand and I can't get it, maybe the forecaster is just not ordering enough, we keep running out, or there's some other, if we're not on the same page, there's a huge breakdown. The same thing with SECs or whoever's creating objectives and incentives. If they're telling me and my team to go out and do something that's against our core values or what the total company is trying to achieve, then we're just defeating each other and we're going back and forth. It's like, why are you telling me to do this when I'm already trying to go in a different direction? And this is why we're going in a different direction. So yeah, aligning everybody from the top down is what we really need to be doing.
Yeah, we need to do a whole nother segment on like those PFP activity based MBO objectives that are twofer. I call them like they're aligned with the overall silent hand strategy of we want to grow profitability and we want to manage the market from what is best for the market and what's best for the business, and we want to use the kind of Iron Fist with a velvet glove and kind of that directionary, activity based. That they're two for they're both one and the same. That they're going to grow the business and they're going to move the needle forward for you individually as a sales rep on the activity based pay. But that's a whole nother segment or a series of podcasts.
Yeah.
The thing that I always loved is that when I jumped in as far as like creating some variable pay components for middle management was I wanted everybody aligned into the process because to your point, Mikey, if everybody's aligned and has the same incentives for the outcome, then when we make a mistake, because middle management is in charge of deploying strategy and deploying the execution that leadership has set out. So when middle management makes a mistake and when leadership makes a mistake on what we should be focusing on, that is going to send ripples through the middle management tier and through the frontline sales reps. And instead of just setting something that is like, yeah, we don't worry about it. The frontline guys, they get their butts kicked every now and then on goals, and like, we don't have to worry about it because we got our separate goals and like we could still achieve them over here. When everybody's put together in the same box and the outcomes and everybody's tied to the same actuals and the same outcomes, you get completely different process where there is genuine focus around alignment. How is this going to play out for everybody and what are we going to get out of it? And it was fun. Like we even had Sandy on our controller side have some component of variable pay. It was very small. It was like 1.5 or 2% of her total comp. But she was in charge of helping us set pricing and think about profitability from a pricing scenario and like, hey, this is getting out of whack, or these prices in GP on these items are too low and we should be advocating, or that was in my camp, I should be advocating for a better FOB, or I should be talking with a supplier how we're going to raise our price because the GP per CE ratio is wrong. And all of those things are good things that she was incentivized to bubble up to me in a unique way that made sense. And if we did that well, then that would create better outcomes for the sales team. So everybody kind of fed itself in that nature too.
Yeah, we were all contributing. There wasn't a single team member that was just out on their own island achieving for their own benefit. We were achieving as a team, and we all wanted to get there. We all wanted to succeed, and our total overall goal was, profitability, growing profits as a company, and being smarter with what we did. So, and we were all on that same page, which we all helped contribute to.
And one of the biggest questions we get is like, who else should we put onto a variable plan, just culturally from a design? And my immediate response is as many as you can, as many as
Mm-hmm.
you think is reasonable, as many as you think that as many people as you think have their hands in the cookie jar to influence end results in the market, which could be everybody from the president and the senior leader and owner and all the way down to the merchandiser. So
Yep.
if they've got a hand in the process, they're eligible in my
Yep.
mind. And the only question you have to ask yourself is how much, as a percentage of their pay, should they be eligible? And my kind of mathematic approach to that is the closer they are to making outcomes happen, the more they should have available to them in variable component. The farther away they are, they might still have influence, but not direct. You ratchet down the percentage of their at risk in that world. And for you, one of the things that we should, reiterate is like you were in a middle management role and had no variable component. And then we brought you into a variable component. And like there might be that process that wholesalers and team members are trying to go through too, is like, how do I add a variable component to somebody who's never had one before?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not easy to tell somebody that, hey, you are used to a set bait or a set pay, now it's going to be variable. That was at first, I've discussed this in other episodes, but at first it was a tough pill to swallow.
Well, we
Uh,
have two different sides of this. It's incredibly easy to tell somebody.
yeah.
From See, I am the teller in this story. It's incredibly easy to be the teller. It is maybe challenging to be the listener to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, especially after, 10 years as our operations manager, obviously no variable pay there. And then I was over on the sales management side for, I think, 5 years before I had some variable pay. So it was 15 years, of being beat in my head. This is my paycheck. This is my paycheck. So when we moved to that, yeah, that was a conversation that we had, but I got it, right? I mean, I pushed back, obviously. We went back and forth on some figures, but I got it. I understood it, and I knew why. And it did drive performance. It obviously did drive performance because now I'm incentivized for my team to get the results that we want.
Yeah.
And then when I'm out, I that totally changed the way that I managed. Right, it went from a manager and managing to a coach and coaching and leading. Right, and two totally different things than when you're out in the market and we can all be out and nitpick accounts till the cows come home. We can all find things like that, but what is that getting done when we're just out nitpicking every time? But when we flip that over to now, hey, I'm on your same team, right? I need you to help grow because that's going to grow me. So let's do this together. And I'm not going to just sit here and nitpick, but we're going to do this together. We're going to figure out different ways that we can either grow this account, make this account better, right? And I'm going to help you find opportunities if you can't find any. But now we're one team. We're working together. So yeah, not only did it change my compensation, but it also changed my total, I guess, way I went about being in my role too.
Which is why, I sat in the leadership role, and that right there is it changed the way that I behaved, is why I had an incredibly simple time of talking to you about it because I knew
Mhm.
it was enough. It was a compelling outcome for the business to do it. And that I was willing to put myself through the pain and suffering because the benefit, the ROI on that pain and suffering was so high. And I came with a lot of conviction in the meeting when we started talking about like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do your raise on complete variable, but that's not enough in my book to have you as enough percentage in variable risk. You're too close to the outcomes to only have, I think you were at, would be like at 4 to 5% in variable pay if we just
Yeah,
did
I
it on
needed
the
more
road.
skin in the game to actually get me in the game.
I needed more. Yes, I needed more skin in the game for you. So then that's where we harvested about 5% of your pay or your base pay and made it variable. So that was the hardest part for you, and some of the mechanics of why this is difficult for a team member like you to listen to is that your bills are set up off your, biweekly paycheck or your monthly paycheck, or, if you are unfortunate enough to have a weekly paycheck, please email me and talk about how you can get your organization off of a weekly paycheck, because that is like the worst thing in the world by far. And there's a good process to do it that we don't have to do any business to figure out how to hack your way through that and get people rallied around moving to bi-weekly. So when you have that set up, and I'm going to pull 5 points off of that, that means that you've got less money week in and week out to fund those bills and to fund that budget that you have allocated out. And everybody has a budget the same way the business does. We've got expenses on the business side, which is naive for us to think that employees don't have those same expenses and their own needs as well. So that's probably the hardest part to get past. Now, the great part about it is that we took that 10% of your pay, where it was 100% fixed and 100% reliable and predictable, and it was always the same, to 90% predictable and reliable and always the same. And we moved 10% to variable. We also, as an opportunity cost for you, as I'm going to trade 90 for 10, but I'm going to take 10 and I could turn it into 12.
Yeah.
And by having an unlimited upside component of this process is that you quickly realized and, walk the team through how you realize that, okay, 3 or 4 or 5 or however months it took you is, okay, I lost a component. I gained 5, lost 5, but now I can take the 10 I've got left and variable and turn it into 10 or 12 or 13 or 14 of my total comp and actually give myself a raise based off performance.
Yeah, yeah, it was me basically cheating the system, I guess, right? In a way, because I was giving myself a reward for doing good. We all want that reward. We all want that reinforcement, for positive behaviors. And sometimes we don't always get it. You might go out there and my previous compensation structure, I could go out there and bust my butt and do really, really, really good, right? My pay was still the same. There was maybe some high fives or some good job buddies, but it wasn't like here's a couple extra $100, this paycheck just because you did this and you did that. So by moving, and I probably only took me 4 months to start realizing that now that I have this money to play with and I knew how to grow that money and reward myself for my own behaviors and my team's behaviors, then it was just a snowball from there. We had conversations after that of moving more money over to it, or if a raise would come around, I wanted it all. I wanted it all. And I think one time you asked me, like, you don't want any in your base? I'm like, no, I really don't, because now I can reward myself, right? Or VXP was rewarding myself for my achievements, and getting my team to achieve, right? Because now that's what I really wanted. That was my overall. I don't want to sit in my office and have conversations with reps about what they're not doing. I want to be out in the market guiding and leading them of what they can do, right? And like you said, changing my behavior and just totally changing the way I go about it. And then I saw the results, because our profitability was growing, our volume was growing, right? We're out there doing the things that we need to achieve the overall company's goals that are trickling down to myself and then the sales teams.
Yeah. And that process of, doing annual raises or, market adjustments to wages became a different method for us too. We would traditionally just tell people, hey, you're going to get your, base raised by, whatever cost of living adjustment we wanted to do. It could be like 1% or 3%, or, we could just change the ratio, which we never did either. We were commission, but we were box commission structured. We never changed the box commission rate. It was always the same.
Yeah.
And, we would just change and tweak some base stuff every now and then. And when we moved to this method of alignment around pay, it became a process of pay and outcomes for the company from top to bottom. It became a process of, I would actually give you guys a budget to work with in percentages terms, and would just say, hey, we want to do somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 3%. Work with me to understand like who's deserving of more, who's deserving of less, and why, and all that good stuff. And then the secondary conversation with the team member and yourself was in that camp of, okay, if it's going to be 3%, how much do you want in your base and how much do you want in that risk? And we would ask them that curiosity wise, because I wanted to learn what they were thinking. We would still choose what we wanted to do at the end of the day, but I still like to learn what they were thinking. And for like 3 years in a row, it was, I want it all variable. I want it all variable. I want it all variable.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're yourself included in that. It's a testament to, I think, the culture that and the cult that it became in our organization around performance and outcomes. And it's a testament to that you guys understood that there was value in doing extra to gain extra instead of doing the same thing to get the same pay month in and month out. Like you learned that if I did this and I did this and I did this, I would get this much in return. And I talk about it all the time, tweaking the return on effort so that that ratio is right, and that reps and middle managers are willing to go above and beyond to get that discretionary effort out of, to give that discretionary effort to the team. That's a better way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to, you're not going to drive results by just discipline. Discipline, discipline, discipline. You're not going to drive results by that. You have to get out there and you have to coach and show and, right, lead by example. I think another component too that really fits well into that is measurable goals too, right? We talk a lot about goals on the podcast, but this fits into that really well too, because now when we're setting goals for team leads and for reps, and we know where we expect them to be on an individualized basis with market conditions and everything else, now we can really, really, really clearly judge their performance. If we're just looking at overall reports and one route is considerably or constantly down 6, 7, 8% over and over and over again, another route's up 6, 7, 8%. When we're just looking at it on paper, we might think, hey, rep A is really just out there killing it. He's driving it, right? He needs a bonus. And rep B, he just sucks. What is he doing? He needs some more coaching. But when we really dive into the data to set the accurate goals, and we know that, all right, well, hey, rep B has all of these variables going on in their market that is driving those lower results. But we actually targeted that rep to be down 8%, but that rep's only down 6%. So they're actually trending 3% higher than where we had expected them to be. Now we have a clearer picture of not just the overall results, but what's actionable, what's going on the route, and is that route doing better than expectation? And that's the clear. And are we rewarding that rep for doing better than expectation? And expectation is not always flat or growth. It can't be, because there are variables that go on out there that just are outside of the control. So if we can figure out and dial in where is expectation and where should this route be, and then reward on top of that. And then on the other hand too, this route should be at flat, but it's down. Now we need to go out. We're not going to reprimand. We're going to go out and do some coaching. We're going to do some leadership, and we're going to figure out other ways that we can grow this route.
You always got the opportunity to go out and review the market, make sure execution. I was working with a seasoned veteran rep at one of our clients who's learning how the process is undertaking from BXP, and they've been running a route for 30 years. Like I get it. They've been doing this a long time, and they've been doing it a way of volume centric a long time. And now we're bringing in profit discussions and GP per CE. And the leader of this organization is elegantly talking about at this meeting, like, we have 4,000 SKUs. We have a variety of opportunities to grow the market, and the complexity is so much that we need help from an organization, and we need to give you help from a sales rep onto how to pick through the clutter, find these opportunities, and take advantage of it. And this rep is, asking questions of how to manage this and around goals and what outcomes are and all of this. And we were talking with his area sales manager and himself, and like, hey, we're going to look at some of the outcomes from a goal metric side, and you guys need to go out and make sure that he is executing to a T in the market, to meeting 100% expectations for the portfolio he has and his capabilities that he has in the market that he has. And that if he's doing all of that, then we can have a nice discussion around what are the gaps, what are the opportunities that he does have, and we can start to set the right number month in and month out as well. So like all of this is way more in your control, to kind of move these numbers around and, play symphony director to make it happen. And when it all rolls uphill, because we've set it up for this client, we've all rose uphill to the ASM. They have a vested interest. And then to that territory manager, they have a vested interest in making this all work across the board. So like, there's a lot of complexity to making this happen. And your middle management can play a big role in making this culture come to life and aligning everything together so it can happen the way we want it. So I loved it. This is one of the reasons why we became obsessed with it at our wholesaler, is because it aligned everybody in a way we've never been able to do before and get
Mhm.
outcomes in a different way. And it was just fun doing it, right, Mikey? Like, it was
Yeah.
just enjoyable.
Yeah. And even just the conversations. I mean, just sitting around, I mean, GP was part of our everyday conversations. It really, from ordering, all going out for a happy hour and what everybody, to, any discussion we had, because we all had that same core value. We all had that same overall goal, right? So it was a part of our everyday talk. GP
You know, it became a little cult.
became our own little cult. Yep.
Sarah
Yep.
has called me a cult leader before. I mean, this is, I mean, maybe it's not one that takes, spiked Kool-Aid and dies in the desert together, but it's more fun than that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot more for sure.
Well, I think that makes it for a good episode, a little shorter one today. And, I hope the listeners have taken away how key, important management, middle management can play in to develop your profit cult and to develop the direction you want to lead in any culture you want to lead in the organization. That layer of group or a layer of team is very important. We're going to see everybody. This will be coming out the second day while we're at MBWA in San Diego. And Mikey will have spent 2.5 days in California. It's too bad, Mike, we're not going to LA so we could get discovered.
Yeah. We could make it big, man.
We can
T-shirts
make
and
it big.
stickers. Yeah.
Yes. So we're in San Diego. If talent agencies are out there looking for a couple knuckleheads who are enjoying a podcast about sales in the beverage world, that are looking to sign us to one of these huge $100 million podcast deals, we'll be at booth 713.
Yeah. Well, and I'll get a new microphone and a haircut and everything, and we'll be just top of our game.
That's right. I love it. I'll keep doing crappy editing of the podcast, not my own
Oh yeah, you
though.
have to. That's on brand for us.
On brand. So thanks, Mikey. Thanks for everybody listening out there, and cheers. We'll see everybody out in San Diego.
Cheers.